Meg. How are you guys?
I'm great,
So,
Katya. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Always, right? Go birds. Okay, so this outing, it's not about just you guys. You guys have to be kind of like the mitigators, right? We've got some new bops, but you guys are the mature ones. Talk about that, having to show these folks that you're better off working together. Let's start with you, Meg.
Now, imagine us, the mature one.
yeah, I know. Yeah, I think, working on Zombies 4 was very meta, because, in real time, like we were figuring out how to help the kids in the best way we could. Just supporting them, giving them advice when they needed, and just kind of watching them kind of go through the same things that we went through. So it was very nostalgic. It was very like, wow, like we are not the young ones anymore. There was a lot of mixed feelings. It was very emotional, all positive. It was just so incredible. And then literally the same exact thing is happening in the movie at the same time. So it was just really wild, like kind of going through the same thing in real life that we were going through in the movie, because Zed and Addison are definitely like passing the torch to Victor and Nova. So, and teaching them the lessons that they learned from Seabrook. So it was very similar what was happening in real life to the screen. So it was cool.
What about for you, Milo? Again, we meet you guys. You guys are thinking you're running off to your prospective camps for the summer. We're all ready. Also, maybe we should not let your character drive anymore. That is a lesson we need to learn from
I
you,
cannot
right?
agree or disagree with that because I love being in the front of the rig
Yeah,
rather than in the back seat because
that's
that
true.
was a whole day of flipping cars over.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I feel like when where my headspace was at getting into this versus where it was at the end was completely different. I mean, on Zombies 1, just meeting the dancers was so like, oh my God, like some of them were 10 years older than us, we felt so tiny there. And getting to Zombies 4 and seeing all the dancers are younger than us this time around was such a like weird moment for me where I was like, oh, okay, we are the older ones here, and that kind of like lit the flame for me to want to lead by example. And also these kids are just kind of perfect to continue the legacy of this zombie story. So I really see them as peers. And like they're just right on our level. And the most important thing is that we care about making an awesome movie and spreading this positive message. So I don't know. There were lots of moments where I learned from them as well on set, and but you always want to be ready to help anybody in any way. I mean, even talking to the parents or other crew members, like, we're all leaning on each other. That's how I see it, I guess.
Well, I think you guys did great. I think this is lovely to see, not just the maturity in your characters, but in you guys, as you maneuvered through this and, helped a lot of young people see themselves in these characters. And I think this movie is the dose of positivity we need right now. I think a lot of kids need something to cheer for, and this kind of helps them do that. And we got some new bops. We got some new songs here, that we're going to be hearing.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
very exciting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time and best of luck with everything.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so much.
much. And
Appreciate it.
thank you so much for saying that. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So
How are
we
you?
excellent, excellent. I love that we're getting to meet your characters who insisted they don't need each other's help but realize that they do. And the two of you, when you meet each other, don't realize, oh, wait a minute, here you are, here you are. Talk about that because they have to stay true to their allegiances, but at the same time, they're like, I want to hang out with you.
Yeah, I mean, they obviously they've been taught to not like each other their whole lives, and that's kind of the theme of this franchise is the two different sides coming together. And I think that both of our characters are very very eager for something new and to experience the outside world outside of what they've been taught. And I think that, yeah, they help each other, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
right? Help each other with discovering the new parts of the world and discovering each other and learning that, maybe we can live cordially and like each other a little bit. So
A little
a
bit.
little bit, just a little bit.
Absolutely. One of the strengths of this series are the songs. And Fred, they gave you some bops. They give you some songs, and you've got to hit some notes. You get to have dramatic moments. Talk about that, because that has to be fun where you get to have your moments. We all have dreamt about that. Some of us will stay singing in the shower, but you got to have your lights, camera, close up moment.
Yeah, I mean, it was so crazy. I remember when I heard all the songs for the first time, and in particular, My Own Way, and I was like, whoa, this is gonna be, oh, I'm gonna be singing in this one. And no, I really was. I got into the booth and it was just so much fun. I feel like it felt so perfect in the moment of Nova, where I feel like it's the peak of the confliction. She's like, okay, she really has to make a choice, whereas before it's always just been something that's been in her head of like, if she wants to, you know, connect with the vampires or so I feel like it's the peak of the confliction, so she's just really confused with everything, and it just felt like such a special moment that I was so grateful to get to sing such a beautiful song and yeah, get to convey that.
And Malachi, you are not left out. You too had a couple bops, because that's one of the things these
No.
movies are known for. Talk about the music, that you guys got to perform.
It was so much fun. This was my first musical, and so it was like I feel like right before this it was singing boot camp, dancing boot camp, all the boot camps to get ready for it. But yeah, I had an amazing time. It turned out great. Recording was awesome, and I mean this one's just insanely talented. So to be able to sing next to her and sing on the same track as her is unreal. But yeah, no, it was so much fun. We had a great time. We feel like we're both really really proud of how it turned out, and can't wait for everybody to see it.
I think one of the strengths of this series overall is your differences shouldn't divide you. You should embrace them and utilize them to come together. Talk about that a little bit, Freya.
Yeah, it was. I feel like it follows on with all the messaging of the previous zombies movies so perfectly, but also expands on it in a way that we haven't seen yet in the franchise. With the vampires and the daywalkers coming in the same movie, we've had like two monsters introduced at once, which was so cool. And I think having Zed and Addison to kind of guide us, I feel like it was always something that Victor and Nova were thinking about, like wanting to explore shady side and sunny side and explore just outside of themselves. I think that's something they always were thinking about, but Zed and Addison kind of gave them the motivation and the belief that they could do it, and it was something they could do because Zed and Addison have done it before. So it was something really beautiful to get to convey, and yeah, just a really beautiful message that I think is so relevant always.
And for you, Malachi, how do you feel about that? Because again, I think we need that message now, just to show,
100%.
be
100%.
yourself, but working together, you get a lot further.
Yeah, totally. It's so important to embrace each other's differences. I think that this movie really it portrays it so well, and it has portrayed it so well for the last what 8 years since the first 7 years since the first one came out, something like that. But yeah, I think we're just so grateful to have been the ones to tell that story this time around. And it's yeah, in this day and age, it's a very, very, very important message because there's so much division in our world, and I think it's really important for us to, just come together as one people and learn to live in love together. So yeah, we're just really grateful to be able to have been the ones to portray that on screen.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, guys, and best of luck with the project. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So we are in, what is it, installation number four. Four. And instead of you guys beefing with each other and figuring out, we go on this little road trip from not so fun. And first of all, I'm like, the car situation. The fact that who allowed him to drive, right? That alone would have been like, you done. You done. Look at the vehicle, right? And then you run into a group of people that, you're like, wait a minute, well, how we get in this? But yeah. So I loved how now you guys are the ones advising. So talk about that. Before you were still figuring it out how to work within each other's groups and then how to navigate high school, but now it's like you're seeing in this new group of friends what you dealt with it within yourselves.
Totally. One, I just have to say, I love that you mentioned the car. Yeah,
Yes.
I laughed hard too because yes, Zed should not be driving. I think actually any other person in that car probably would have been more capable. Yes, things can go awry easily. Especially when you have something like just a wristband holding you together. But no tea, no shade. So I love Zed. That's my guy. But of course, you know what? Canon event because it led us to the adventure of Zombies for Dawn of the Vampires. We have a little detour. We now meet these two brand new monster factions, the Daywalkers and the Vampires. And as you mentioned, they are at odds with each other. And, I think it's a situation that feels familiar to the OG crew. We have known divisiveness and we've known that struggle over learning how to embrace individuality and coming together to be stronger. And so what I love about this film is that while thematically there's still so many of those lessons that we've seen and have evolved over the films, but you really get to see our OG crew like put what they've learned into action and like really implement those lessons and step into these roles of camp counselor, of mentor, and lead this younger generation to ultimately, hopefully, coming together to work to fight something that I cannot say because that would be a spoiler, but a greater danger. And I think that's really important at the end of the day to kind of put what's aside and come together to be stronger. And so yeah, I think it's a fun movie and I'm excited for people to see it.
Let's talk about the bops because we can't
Yeah.
have a Disney movie without the bops,
Yeah.
right? So how much fun is it? Because not only these songs get recorded, but you know that your audience learns the songs as well. And that's one of the things that they enjoy. So talk about that part of it. You guys aren't only acting, but you've got a whole costuming, then you got to dance and you get new bops. Talk about how much fun it is to know that these songs that you're recording are going to be a fabric, of these young people's lives.
I will say it's a lot of pressure sometimes because I am still belting out songs from my childhood. I grew up on DComs. And so to know that millions of people will be listening and learning these songs and that they could, in any way, shape, or form be an integral part of someone's childhood the way that songs have been for me growing up, that's a lot of pressure. But it's made so much easier when you know that you have such an incredible creative team behind you to support you. I mean, we have some of the best songwriters and producers who have actually created these bops that I grew up with. And so they are like Disney legends. And so it's kind of like a pinch me moment every time I step into the booth. I'm like, oh my goodness, like you wrote whatever, like, and so it's fun. It feels like a lot of responsibility, but also it's like it's music. It like makes you feel something, it brings people together, it gets you up and dancing. And it really connects people to these characters in such a beautiful way. And so yeah, I'm so excited for the music in this film. It is so good. It is so addicting to listen to. This soundtrack is honestly one of our best. And that's a tough statement to say because I think the music has always been like 10 out of 10. This is like 11 out of 10. So, and that's just my unbiased opinion.
One of my favorite moments of yours, though, is when, they try to push up and you're like, "Grr." Just like,
Yeah, the things come out. The
was that in
claws.
the script or was this just something you ad-lib? Because I was like, I know you were like, not today, sir. Not today. You are confused about who's running stuff.
I love that you asked that question. There was a moment that was in the script where I kind of like snarl and all the kids scurry into bed. But then MK decided to like peek his head out again, and then of course I had to like hit him with a rah. And so that was a little unscripted moment that we kind of collaborated and brought to life, which honestly it made it into the trailer cut, which we were very thrilled about. I think it's a really funny, cute moment. But yeah, it was not scripted.
Also talk about, I think, just as a mom, I'm always like, okay, everything is either for younger kids, like grade school kids, and then we skip and we go immediately to high school. This is one of the few genres where we still have stuff for middle school kids because it's important, right? We all had our little stores, whether we went to Claire's and spent a little bit of money, just as, limited to like, it seems like we've ignored that demographic. You're supposed to still like you got your feet in both worlds. Talk about how nice it is that you guys are, these movies do represent that demographic, that's still wants kiddish things, but they don't want it to be too babyish, but at the same time, they still enjoy like song and dance and just like regular lyrics.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up because I think it's a really interesting time just in entertainment and media right now where, yeah, you kind of see these extremes where there's content for really young kids, like babies, and then there's content for, like the more young adult audience, but that kind of middle that like I'm going through puberty and I'm figuring out who I am, and that like right in there it's kind of sometimes content is lacking at times. And I think what's so awesome about the zombies world is it really does. And I know this is not even just like a pitch or me saying this because I have met so many people of all different ages, of all different backgrounds, of all different like walks of life who love these movies. And I think it is fun and colorful and like this vivid world of like fantasy that feels like at times, youthful and silly and goofy, but it also has a maturity and a seriousness to it. The stakes really are high, and the heart you can feel it's like palpable in these films, and the themes that we explore really are so important for, I would say, anybody of any age. But oftentimes I think when you're a teenager and you're trying to figure out who you are and what you want, and what stepping into your individuality and embracing yourself for all that you are looks like. I think it's nice to have role models like a Zed or an Addison or an Eliza or Willa who have been through that, but then also this younger generation who are going through that. And they're all still going through it. We're all still on our own journeys. I'm 25 almost, and I'm still going through it. And but it really does bring the people together. It brings families together, people watch it together. There's truly something for everyone. And you don't get to see that a lot anymore, so I'm just really grateful to be a part of a franchise that has something for everybody.
Also, I would say, I think with you guys being you being a young Black woman being in this, I think the other thing that I love is that the parts of, of course you're wearing a costume, you're playing a zombie, but at the same time, there is like you get to wear your hair
Yeah.
texture. And I think those types of things are really important. How much input do you have to be able to say, yes, we're playing a character, but there is a portion of the audience that doesn't look like everyone else and they need to see snippets of themselves, and it also helps the brand.
100%. That representation is so important to me because, growing up, I wanted to see myself in spaces that oftentimes, it lacked someone that looked like me, that I felt that I could deeply connect to and resonate with. And so to be that for someone else, for a young kid, a young girl, um, looking to see her curls on screen, looking to see her skin tone, like glisten in the light and be beautiful and feel powerful, but then also like be feminine. It's those. I think seeing is believing, and so to see that on screen, I think when a young girl sees Willa and sees her fierce and fabulous, I think it does something, and it's like something intangible and sometimes unidentifiable, but I know for me stepping into that character, it's given me so much confidence and assuredness in myself. And I see when kids dress up as her for Halloween or sing her songs, it just it's like this joy and exuberance and confidence that just flows out of them. And it's so heartwarming. So I just feel so grateful to be a part of that magic for someone else in their life and be a role model, or just to see that representation. I think it's just so important. Yeah.
Agree. Thank you so much, Chandler, for your time and best of luck with everything. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.